Welcome to my low motivation day routine, the routine that I think that everyone should have. In a book that I read a while ago, they talked about how people typically have 3 good days for every 1 bleh day. When I read that, I felt a sense of like, oh, you cannot escape low motivation days. So why not get really good at them? Why not plan for them? Why not surprise them with how well equipped you are to handle them? This is exactly what I like to do when I feel a low motivation day hitting. Do not flinch at low motivation. One of my mantras for low motivation days, and I have a lot of them that I'm going to talk about in this video, is we don't flinch at our feelings. What flinching looks like is actually different for everyone. Maybe when you feel low motivation, you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get everything done? What if this lasts all day? What if this never ends? Maybe you just feel helpless. Those are all forms of flinching, and you probably have your own like special way of doing things. But when I realized that one of the keys to getting out of a low motivation funk was not flinching at my feelings, everything changed.
The cycle that you can get into with low motivation days is feeling a sense of low motivation, freaking out, thinking about like, what does this mean about me? Why am I feeling this way? Just excessive thinking about feelings. A good thing to think about is like, if my friend was feeling this way, how would I react to their feelings? I guarantee if your friend was like, oh, like I'm feeling kind of low motivation today, you wouldn't be like, what do you think that means? You'd be like, oh yeah, that happens. And that is how you need to respond to your feelings of low motivation. Otherwise, you will get into a cycle with them.
So step number 1 of my low motivation routine is I do not flinch at my feelings, because when we flinch at our feelings, we make them worse. But not freaking out about your feelings doesn't mean that you're destined for just like a slumpy day, ignoring all the things on your to-do list, ignoring all your self-care. It just means that you react to your feelings with no big deal energy, and then you keep on moving, which leads me to step 2 of my low motivation routine. An object in motion stays in motion. Imagine it's a Saturday and you're going to sleep promising yourself that tomorrow you're going to do some resetting, meal prepping, cleaning. It's going to be a full-on refresh day. And then you wake up on Sunday and all you want to do is lie in bed and scroll. What is a gal to do? This is when I focus all of my energy on a mindless momentum creator. And I go, what mindless NPC level task that requires no thinking do I feel willing to do? My personal go-tos are stacking the dishwasher, putting on a load of washing, hanging clothes out on the line. A lot of productivity advice is like, yes, eat the frog, do the hardest thing first, and I do get that energy. On a high motivation day, that is good stuff. On a low motivation day, you are always better starting your day off slow and doing little tiny tasks that get your momentum going. If you can swing it, do something that gives you a really quick win, that gives you a really visible win, that you can like see your results and you can be like, I did that. I have 2 mantras that are often my go-tos as I do a little mindless momentum creator. Number 1, do all that you can to do nothing with your feelings. You never need to rush in and save yourself from your feelings. They are called feelings. They are there to be felt, not to be thought over, puzzled over, reassured away, or analyzed. I see you. Do all that you can to do nothing with your feelings. And my other favorite that you all know by now, which is go slow, don't stop. Make it an actual game, like how slowly can I do this? Somehow that just always makes it more fun. If you're watching this video and you're nodding your head and you're just like, yes, I too need a plan for my low motivation days, I want to introduce you to the Resistance Journal. This is a Notion template for anyone who wants to learn to work with their feelings of resistance, who wants to learn to collaborate with themselves, to practice self-compassionate productivity. I really created this product as something for anyone who is in a resistance procrastination cycle. Maybe you experience more low motivation than you want. Maybe you experience a little bit more resistance than you used to. This is your template. This template is also part of the Calm Productivity Notion pack, another new, beautiful product for anyone who wants to use Notion to organize their life and be a more productive human being, but in a calm way. I'm gonna have those 2 products linked down in the description below, and let's get back to it. The next thing I'm doing on a low motivation day is job sharing with my future self. A big misunderstanding that I used to have about low motivation was that low motivation meant low energy, but often what it actually means is low focus, low interest, low willpower. Which is why the medicine for a low motivation slumpy day often actually isn't resting and numbing your brain. And because oftentimes I am actually just low in willpower, job sharing with my future self always helps. The way that I explain this approach is, you know how it's a lot easier to go over to a friend's house and clean their space versus cleaning your own space? That is what job sharing with your future self is about. When you start to see your future self as a different person, someone that you just like love, care about, want to make life easy for, and you start to ask yourself on these low motivation days, well, how can I make her or their life easier? Your resistance to getting things done goes down. Usually for me, this means like looking at the to-do list that I set for myself and then just asking myself my next favorite go-to question, which is, well, what am I willing to do here? I may not be willing to send that email, but I may be willing to draft it. I might not be willing to meal prep, but I might be willing to cut up some veggies. You can almost always tear apart a to-do list and find bits and pieces that you are willing to do, which leads to something that almost always works its way into my low motivation routine, which is a self-compassionate to-do list. When you are writing a standard to-do list, you are actually rarely thinking about yourself. You are in the headspace of, okay, what do I need to do, have to do? What are my problems? What do I need to solve? Often we are writing our to-do list with this underlying assumption that our future self will be high in motivation, high in focus, high in gusto, high in willpower. A self-compassionate to-do list is just a to-do list where you are actually considering yourself as you are right now. It's a to-do list that does not pretend you are currently at your best. When I sit down and I write a self-compassionate to-do list, when I'm in a headspace of like, man, I don't want to do anything, there is something just so relieving. It forces me to just accept where I am and be realistic about what's next. So the entire time that you're writing out this to-do list, the question that needs to be on your mind is, how do I feel about doing that? Do I actually feel willing to do that? And you're collaborating with yourself. You are working with yourself to create this to-do list, unlike a typical to-do list where you usually don't collaborate with yourself even a little. My low motivation day routine is always gonna end with setting the table up for my future self. This kind of ties back into job sharing with your future self. You are asking yourself, like, how can I make my tomorrow self delighted? Like, how can I make it so that they wake up and they're like, oh man, like, I'm so grateful to yesterday me, because they set the table for me so that I can just like get stuck into it today. That could mean that you tidy the house because you want your tomorrow self to wake up and feel like everything feels fresh and beautiful. That could mean that you just have like beautifully organized to-do lists ready for your tomorrow self so they don't even have to think to get started with their day. You're gonna do everything that you can to make sure your tomorrow self wakes up and is like, wow, what a wonderful day this is gonna be. I call this setting the table. I don't know why, it works for me. And you might be hearing this and being like, well, I'm not gonna have the energy or like the vibe to do that on a low motivation day, but I urge you to give it a try, because whenever I personally start looking up my future self on a low motivation day, it's like it feeds me motivation. It's this weird little mindset shift that just pulls you along. If you enjoyed watching this video, or maybe you're currently in a slump, I did make a good video a while ago where I literally filmed myself getting out of a slump. I had someone comment the other day on that video and say, I go back to this video every time that I'm in a slump, so that's when I know it's good stuff. I have that video linked on the screen as well as down below. I appreciate you so much and I'll see you soon.